What would happen if Satoru Gojo faced characters from other anime? Gojo emerged as an almost absolute being in Jujutsu Kaisen, claiming he could defeat even the greatest of curses if Sukuna regained his full power. However, now that Gojo is no longer with us, part of that aura of invincibility and grandeur has ascended along with him. Even so, Satoru Gojo remains a character with unique abilities, his infinity being one of them. With his barrier activated 100% of the time, anything moving toward him approaches a speed of 0, rendering Gojo untouchable. So, could popular characters from other anime break through this barrier and defeat the strongest sorcerer of the modern era? Or would they fail to counter the immeasurable power of his unlimited void? That's what we'll explore in today's video. But first, don't forget to break through the like barrier and subscribe below with the notification bell on. Let's get closer to our goal of 1,000 subscribers and finally monetize this channel. Starting with Makima, the control devil from Chainsaw Man. We'll begin with Makima, partly because she and Gojo make a perfect couple. Their battle should probably take place in the bedroom, and partly because her abilities make for a compelling matchup against Gojo. First, as the control devil, Makima can dominate anyone she deems inferior to herself. Yes, it's as simple as that. She demonstrated this by controlling much of Chainsaw Man's cast during the manga's final arc. However, Makima struggles or outright fails to control individuals she perceives as a threat, such as Chainsaw Man himself. In a scenario where Makima and Gojo meet without prior knowledge of each other, it's possible she could initially control him, assuming he's just an ordinary person. However, once she witnesses his abilities, her control over him might falter. Makima also possesses immortality. Through a contract, any damage inflicted on her is redirected as a disease to a random Japanese citizen. Consequently, when Makima dies, she simply returns to life without a scratch. Unlike characters with regenerative abilities, e.g. Wolverine, her body doesn't visibly regenerate. It reappears perfectly intact as though nothing happened. This suggests that even if Makima were disintegrated by a hollow purple, for example, her body would still materialize anew as long as there are Japanese citizens alive. Similarly, if she were caught in Gojo's unlimited void, her brain fried, and she died, she would still return due to her contract. Gojo could repeatedly use his domain expansion until he realized that the only way to stop Makima's resurrection is to trap her in a vegetative state. By activating his domain for an extremely brief moment, as he did in Shibuya, he wouldn't kill her, but would leave her stunned and unable to end her own life, effectively preventing her revival. However, what makes this battle fascinating is that, like Gojo, Makima has abilities that manipulate space, resembling the Force from Star Wars. For instance, Makima was able to fling Chainsaw Man into space, something Gojo's red technique could never achieve. This gives us an idea of how powerful the control devil is in Chainsaw Man. However, all this power wouldn't be enough to bypass Satoru Gojo's infinity, but Makima does have a way to counter it. In the series, Makima performs a ritual that allows her to crush any target, regardless of distance. To do this, she must meet certain requirements: knowing her target's name, being in a high-altitude sanctuary, and sacrificing humans. By meeting these conditions, Makima could ignore Gojo's infinity and crush him with her power, as the technique bypasses the concept of proximity and strikes directly where the target is. This would be the only known method for the control devil to defeat Satoru Gojo in a direct confrontation. Now, let's talk about the first monkey on our list, Monkey D. Luffy from the anime One Piece. To begin with, Luffy possesses destructive power far beyond that of Satoru Gojo. In the Dressrosa arc, Luffy's King Kong gun was powerful enough to slam Doflamingo into the ground, causing massive chunks of the island to rise from the impact. Keep in mind, this wasn't even a direct hit, but rather the aftermath of Doflamingo being sent crashing into the island. Later arcs demonstrated even more strength. Luffy's Bajrang gun delivered the most powerful punch in the series, nearly obliterating all of Onigashima had it actually hit the island. So there's no shortage of strength when it comes to Luffy delivering a solid punch to Gojo. But would he be able to bypass Gojo's Limitless? Many fans might argue that Luffy could achieve this through his armament haki. As we know, Luffy has mastered the ability to emit his aura and channel that energy through an opponent's body without directly touching them. In theory, this suggests Luffy could emit and channel his aura past the Limitless to strike Gojo directly. However, that's not quite how it works. Notice that Luffy's energy isn't magically transferred into the opponent's body. It's emitted with such intensity that it pierces through and explodes on the other side. The energy still needs to travel through physical space, and if that space tends toward infinity, Luffy's attack would never actually reach Gojo's body. Now, what if Luffy, using his Gear 5 form, could apply his cartoon-like powers to create a gap in Gojo's limitless? Based on what we've seen, Luffy's awakened form lets him manipulate his surroundings as if they were rubber, even transforming his opponents similarly. However, we've never seen Luffy manipulate the fabric of space itself as if it were rubber. The closest example we have is when Luffy was seen running on air, but the scene doesn't explicitly confirm that he used spatial fabric as a trampoline. Personally, I wouldn't doubt he has the potential for it. If we think of space as something foldable, it's possible Luffy could grab hold of it and reshape it like rubber. In that case, he could theoretically grab the limitless and punch a hole in it to reach Gojo. However, since we've yet to see Luffy accomplish such a feat, he remains unable to touch Gojo. Now, what if Satoru Gojo activated his domain expansion against Luffy? What would happen? Could Gojo fry Luffy's worm brain? Well, we know Luffy's body is entirely made of rubber, down to every cell. So if caught in the infinite void, we could imagine a scenario where Luffy would receive an infinite influx of information, leaving him completely stunned but not dead, as his rubber cells might endure the overload. Taking it even further, given the comedic nature of One Piece, especially in Gear 5 form, I wouldn't be surprised if Luffy ended up with the same goofy expression he had during his fight against Enel, where he deliberately turned his brain off to stop thinking. In other words, if Luffy were to shut off his brain, he simply wouldn't process the infinite information from the infinite void. Now let's talk about the most powerful bald guy in anime, Saitama from One Punch Man. When it comes to raw strength, there's no question about whether he could obliterate Gojo with a punch. Back in Season 1, Saitama landed a punch that shifted the clouds across the entire planet during his sparring match with his disciple Genos. Later, in his fight against Garou, Saitama's strength grew exponentially, increasing infinitely as he pushed himself to his limits. To put it in perspective, during that battle, moons and planets were being destroyed. The guy destroys planets. What more do you need to argue? However, sheer physical strength isn't enough if you can't bypass Gojo's limitly, or is it? During the same fight with Garou, Blast, the #1 hero in the S-class rank, used his powers to open space-time portals to teleport Saitama and Garou away from Earth. The battle was so intense that the planet itself couldn't withstand the weight of their clash. Saitama and Garou were teleported to one of Jupiter's moons, and it was during this fight that the bald hero pulled off an insane feat. Using his strength, he literally grabbed the fabric of space and moved the wormhole to prevent Garou from escaping through the portal. He even kicked the fabric of space, sending the portal flying away. Some might argue that this is just Toon Force and shouldn't be taken seriously. Personally, while One Punch Man has its comedic moments, I believe Saitama's power level has reached such absurd heights that this feat isn't just Toon Force, but rather a demonstration of him literally manipulating the fabric of space with brute strength. Regardless of how we interpret Saitama's feat, it's highly likely that he could fold the barrier that makes up Gojo's limitless and finish him off with a single punch. But what if Satoru Gojo activated his domain expansion against Saitama? Would the bald hero lose the rest of his hair from overthinking? Here, I'd like to highlight a moment from Saitama's battle with Garou, where the hero hunter transferred his cosmic powers to Saitama, including knowledge of all the universe's energy. If Saitama still possesses these powers after traveling back in time, it's reasonable to assume he wouldn't be affected by Gojo's infinite void. But even if he no longer has them, it's still plausible that Saitama could simply tank the effects of the infinite void. It's important to note that the infinite void isn't an absolute power. We saw Sukuna, after being caught in Gojo's domain expansion, remain completely paralyzed, yet still able to react, hide in Megumi's shadows, and summon Mahoraga. If Sukuna could react minimally to Gojo's domain, imagine a bald guy with interplanetary strength that grows exponentially and infinitely. In conclusion, it's highly likely that Saitama's brain could simply tank the effects of the infinite void. Now, let's analyze the most popular character on this list, Son Goku from Dragon Ball. I hate to be the one repeating this cliche, but when it comes to power levels, there's no comparison. Goku destroys planets. However, that alone isn't enough unless Goku can touch Satoru Gojo. So, what methods could Goku use to bypass Gojo's limitless? The first idea I'm sure most of you thought about is his instant transmission technique. It's true that while Gojo is protected by his limitless barrier, his body isn't in a parallel dimension or anything of the sort. It remains in the physical space where he stands. The only difference is that he's shielded by this barrier surrounding his body. So, could Goku just teleport in front of his enemy and explode Gojo from the inside out? Not quite. To teleport inside someone's body, Goku would need to sense and locate the exact energy inside his target target. This is something we've never seen demonstrated in the Dragon Ball series, as instant transmission is primarily used for travel and direct teleportation between 2 points. Entering someone's body is an extremely specific action and would likely require manipulating the technique at a much more complex level. Even if it were possible for Goku to achieve such a feat, it's important to consider that, from a moral perspective, this wouldn't be an approach Goku would choose. He's a fighter who prefers to defeat his opponents through strength and skill in battle, without resorting to strategies that could be considered unethical or cruel, such as blowing someone up from the inside. Additionally, we don't know what would happen to his own body if Goku did manage to teleport inside another person. There would certainly be complex physical issues, such as the existing physical space and the impact of the collision. Considering the fantastical rules of the Dragon Ball universe, it's plausible to assume this would result in a catastrophic effect for both the target and Goku, making the act risky and unnecessary when he already has more practical and powerful ways to fight and defeat his opponent. Disregarding instant transmission, both for its practical limitations and the moral implications, could Goku simply break Gojo's limitless barrier with sheer brute force? Throughout Dragon Ball's history, Goku has demonstrated power levels that have, on multiple occasions, literally shattered the fabric of space-time or threatened dimensional stability. Let's take a look at a few examples. In the Battle of Gods movie, during his fight against Beerus, the god of destruction, Goku achieved the Super Saiyan God form for the first time. Their clash was so intense that the shockwaves of their blows rippled across the universe. These shockwaves threatened to disintegrate everything if they continued to grow unchecked, showcasing that their battle exceeded the normal laws of physics. Although there wasn't a direct rupture of space-time, it highlighted the colossal scale of Goku's power. However, in this scenario, the shockwave, no matter how vast their reach, would still hit a hard stop when directed at Gojo's limitless barrier, reducing their speed to 0. They might disturb the barrier, but we have better examples to examine. In the Dragon Ball Super Broly movie, the fight between Goku, Vegeta, and Broly became so intense that at one point, the three warriors shattered the dimensional barriers of their battlefield and were briefly transported to another dimension before returning to normal space. This brief but impactful moment demonstrated that the scale of their power was sufficient to rupture the fabric of space-time. Some might argue that this isn't a great example since it involved three characters fighting together. Fair enough. But here's the main example worth discussing: Goku's fight against Hit, the assassin from Universe 6. In this battle, Goku reaches a new level by combining his Super Saiyan Blue form with the Kaioken technique. As we know, Hit has the ability to manipulate time, creating time skips that allow him to pause time and strike at precise moments. During their fight, Goku becomes so fast and powerful that he breaks through the time barrier Hit creates, effectively overcoming the temporal techniques and shattering the space-time Hit relied on to execute his attacks. This example solidifies the notion that Goku, through sheer power alone, could likely force a rupture in space-time against Gojo's limitless barrier. Additionally, there's another older example, not involving Goku, but it serves to provide a clearer understanding of the power scale within the Dragon Ball universe. During the Z Saga, we see Gotenks, Piccolo, and Majin Buu trapped in the hyperbolic time chamber. After nearly going insane from boredom, Majin Buu lets out a scream that opens a portal through space-time, allowing him to escape the chamber and return to the outside dimension. Inspired by this, Gotenks transforms into Super Saiyan 3 and shatters the fabric of space-time with a scream, creating a portal for himself and Piccolo to escape as well. In light of this feat by a Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks, it wouldn't be far-fetched to assume that Goku could also break through Gojo's limitless barrier with a similar method, just a scream. But even if he didn't resort to that, the other examples cited earlier, especially his fight against Hit, are more than enough to conclude that Goku could overpower Satoru Gojo. Now, what if Satoru Gojo activated his unlimited void? Would Goku's brain short-circuit under the barrage of infinite information? If Goku were to lower his ki to the power level typical of the Jujutsu Kaisen universe, it's possible that Gojo's domain expansion might have an effect on him. Remember, even Goku in his Super Saiyan Blue form was caught off guard by a random laser. However, while Goku's IQ might not be the highest, his ki is immense. By raising it even slightly, I believe he could endure the unlimited void for the same reasons Saitama could. We're talking about characters who process information at speeds near or faster than light, characters whose physical strength and durability far exceed what could could reasonably be affected by Gojo's technique under normal circumstances. Their sheer resilience would allow them to withstand the onslaught of information without succumbing. And that's my conclusion about these 4 characters discussed in this video. If you stayed until the end, enjoyed the content, and haven't subscribed yet, make sure to leave a like, share your opinions in the comments about this video's topic, and subscribe with the notification bell turned on to help us reach the 1,000 subscriber milestone. See you in the next video. Bye!